So on homework day 8, they're going to keep with that thing where we were doing those fractional exponents where we could rewrite them with the radical sign in there, only this time we've got fractions. If I have 1/9 to the 3/2 power, it means that I'm going to do the square root. Again, the 2 isn't really necessary, but I'm going to put it in there for effect of 1/9 cubed, right? When we switch it around. So we said we were going to start by doing the radical, the square root of 1/9. Well, when you think of the square root of 1/9, just think of what the square root of 9 is. The square root of 9 is 3, and so I'm going to have 1/3, right? That square root or any root of 1 always stays 1, so you don't have to worry about the 1 a whole lot. But the square root of 1/9 is 1/3. Then I have to take my answer to the 3rd power. So if I take 1/3 to the 3rd power, again, 1 to any power is still going to be 1. And 3 cubed, 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So again, if you want to check that with your calculator, that fraction exponent needs to be put in parentheses. So you would type this one in as 1/9, the caret key, to the 3/2 power. And so when you put that exponent, that's a fraction. Even though on our paper it doesn't have parentheses, on your calculator you need to put the parentheses around that exponent to get it to work right. So on the next one there, you have 32 to the negative 4/5 power. If I have a negative exponent, the first thing I want to do is the reciprocal of my base. That's what that negative exponent means. So I would do the reciprocal of 32 and make it 1/32 to the positive 4/5 power, right? To get rid of the negative exponent, we do the reciprocal, makes our exponent positive. Now we have a problem that's pretty much like the first one was. Now that my exponent's positive. So my denominator is 5. I'm going to do the 5th root of 1/32 and take my answer to the 4th power. The 5th root of 1/32. What would be the 5th root of 1/32? The 5th root of 32 is
4.
no. Because if you did 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, you'd have a really big number, right? 2, right? 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. So the 5th root of 1/32 would be 1/2. And then I'm going to take my 1/2 to the 4th power. And if I take 1/2 to the 4th power, I'm going to get 1 over, what's 2 to the 4th? 16, exactly. So 1/16. Same thing, if you would want to type that in and check it with your calculator, the 32 you don't necessarily need parentheses around because it's not a fraction. You could use them if you wanted to, but 32 caret, and then in parentheses, you're going to do the negative 4/5 power. It should give you 1/16. So number 2, we want to simplify 81 to the negative 3/4 power. First thing you always want to do, if your exponent is negative, which it is the reciprocal of my base. So the reciprocal of 81 would be 1/81. So I'd write it as 1/81 to the positive 3/4 power. Exactly. Now I can simplify it once my exponent is positive. So rewriting that as a radical, I'm going to have the 4th root of 1/81, and then I'm going to cube that answer. So I have to think about what's the fourth root of 81. Three. So the fourth root of 1 over 81 would be 1 over 3, 1/3. And then I'm going to cube 1/3, so 1/3 cubed would be 1 over 27. So 1 over 27 would be my first answer there. So the second one there, again, I have a negative exponent. So if I have a negative exponent, I have to do the reciprocal of my base. What's the reciprocal of 1 over 32? It'd be, not stay the same. I got to flip it, so it's going to be 32 over 1, which is just 32 then, right? So I'm going to do 32 to the 3/5 power. So I'm going to do the 5th root of 32 and cube that answer. So the 5th root of 32 is 2, and then 2 cubed is 8, exactly. So when my exponent is negative and I started with a whole number, I ended up with a fraction. When I had that unit fraction, 1 over my number ends up with a whole number.
So if your fraction's in parentheses, then you flip it?
Nope, if your exponent is negative, then you flip it.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't matter if your fraction's in parentheses or not, but if you have a negative exponent, you flip it. If your exponent's positive, then you just solve it. So notice on the third one there, this one has a negative exponent, but the second one doesn't have a negative exponent. So the first one we got to flip over before we start, but the second one we won't. So if I'm going to do 8 to the negative 3/4, since my exponent is negative, I got to do my reciprocal. 1 over 8 to the positive 3/4. So then rewriting that, positive 4/3. I'm going to go, we can't take the 4th root of 8. It's because I wrote it the wrong way. 4/3. How about I write the right number? 1 over 8 to the positive 4/3 is what we were doing. So the cubed root of 1/8 raised to the 4th power. So the cubed root of 1/8 is, so 1 over 2. And then if I take 1/2 to the 4th power,
$16.
1 over 16, yep. 1/16. Now the second one there doesn't have the negative exponent, so they're going to throw some in there every once in a while just to make sure you're paying attention. There's not a negative exponent. We just go ahead and solve it by doing the cubed root of 1 over 125, and then we're going to square that. So the cubed root of 125.
I'd say 5.
You're right. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. So I'm going to get 1/5. And then I'm going to square that. And 1/5 squared would be
1/10.
1. 5 times 5 is
Oh, 25.
25. 1/25. So 1 over 25 for your answer.